And I hope you have come with your textbooks and a notebook to jot down the value points. Last class, I had done with you the chapter and detailings about the chapter. I hope you have gone through that and come prepared for the question answers, so that when I give the answers to you and the value points, you know about it. It's just not jotting down the points. You should have the knowledge about the lesson as well. Okay. Well, I remember giving you this particular, showing you this particular slide where I said that you need to make notes on the chapter, and in the form of note making. I had asked you to divide the chapter into two parts. The first part up to rescue from the pool, and the second one after that, the till the remaining part of the story. I had also said you can include three parts also if you want, where we are talking about Roosevelt and his quotation on fear. So you can have three parts or you can have two parts, both are correct. But this note making has to be done, children, in your notebooks. For this chapter, we have always been doing note making. It will help you to remember the sequence of the events, and in the form of a flow chart, if you do the note making, it will become very easy for you to remember. So questions we are going to do now, and also in your notebook, your first you must write the theme, sub-theme, about the author, which I have already discussed with you, then the note making, and now the question answers, which I'll be doing with you in the class. Well, I hope you all are ready. So we start with our first slide on it. I'll just give a quick review with you, do a quick review with you on the theme of the chapter. The theme was, it is a personal and a real life account of Douglas' experience and his in water, and the fear which he experienced and the steps which he took to overcome it. So this was what the excerpt was from his book Men and Mountains. And the second important part of the theme here is the bullying and its impact. How did the big bully Bruiser, 18-year-old Bruiser, bullied Douglas and threw him into the deep end of the water, and what impact it had on Douglas? And third important thing is, how did Douglas work to overcome his fear? Also, simultaneously, the underlying theme which you will find here in the story is how the author has tried to work out a psychological analysis of the fear. He has tried to work on himself and try to analyze the fear so that he'll be able to overcome the fear. Now, a number of values also have been raised from this particular experience of Douglas. Remember, it's an autobiographical experience because he himself went through this, and the whole story is written in the first person. No doubt, it is so very gripping and exciting the way the story has been told to, or his experience has been told to us. The values which have been raised are, it talks about his determination to overcome his fear, his optimistic approach towards his fear, that he did not bow down to the fear, rather he strived and worked hard to overcome his fear, and with perseverance and diligence, continuous efforts, lot of hard work he had to put in, and at the same time, with that courage, he endured all the hardships which he came on the way to overcome his fear, and he was able to win over his fear. So these are the values which are raised in this particular experience of Douglas overcoming the fear. Now, children, any kind of a fear which is there, I have talked to you in my last class about the different kinds of fear and how we need to overcome it. So these are the important ingredients required, important qualities required for you to be able to overcome your fear. I'm sure you had penned down your, some of you must have definitely mentioned it, that you have some fear. Everybody has some fear or the other. And if you don't have, very good. But if you do have, we have to strive to overcome those fears and learn a lesson from Douglas. Okay. So first thing is about the first question, which arises here is, which two incidents in Douglas' early life made him scared of water? Let's see, what was it? See, when he was the other value points here, when he was 3 or 4 years old, his father took him to a beach in California, and that is where the birth of the fear took place in him. He was knocked down by the strong waves and got almost buried under the water. He was breathless and he hung on to his father. He was quite frightened. And his father, was standing there and laughing because he knew that nothing is going to happen. But a child's approach to such a thing and a grown-up man's approach are two different things. So he was frightened, but the father was laughing, right? So this did leave an indelible mark on his mind, the fear for water. Secondly, the second incident which scared him was when he was 10 or 11-year-old, and a big bully of a boy tossed him into the deep end of the YMCA pool. He could not come to the surface in spite of all his efforts, and he became very panicky. So these two incidents made Douglas scared of water. So first is about the beach in California, and the second one is the incident when he was thrown into the swimming pool by a bruiser. Now, children, in the story, the incidents are not mentioned in this order, but you will be writing in this order, in this chronological order, because when he was 3 or 4 years old, this incident took place first, and this housed a fear in him. And the second incident is when he was thrown into the pool. So it should be written, your answer should go in the chronological order only. Okay, even though in the lesson it's not mentioned likewise, right? Next, why did Douglas prefer to go to the YMCA swimming pool to learn swimming? According to Douglas, the YMCA pool was safer compared to the Yakima River. And the river was quite deep, and there were several cases of drowning reported about it, and his mother would constantly remind him, keep the drowning incidents fresh in his mind by reminding him again and again about the drowning incidents. So this YMCA pool was safer than the Yakima River, right? Moreover, more important is that the pool was only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, though its depth was about 9 feet at the deeper end. Yet the drop was very gradual, and hence the pool was safer than the river, right? Moreover, the current of water also is always safer in a pool than in a river. Okay. Now, a very important question which is raised here next is, was the mother responsible in inculcating fear of water in Douglas? Because the mother would constantly remind him about the drowning incidents in Yakima River. So was the mother also, in some way, she was also responsible in inculcating the fear? Let's see. See, mothers can never be wrong. Mothers can never inculcate fear in us. Her purpose of warning him constantly of the drowning incidents in Yakima was just to make him aware of the dangers of the treacherous Yakima. Treacherous, as I told you earlier, is a cunning. And why cunning? Because Yakima River, nobody knew much about its depth and how it could change its course, and the flow of the water would become so sudden. So for this reason, there were several drowning incidents. So the mother would keep warning him, right? And there's nothing wrong if the mother was warning him. Now, developing that fear and inculcating that fear was solely Douglas' responsibility. Moreover, another incident had taken place with his father. So both together could have been the influence could have been and he could have developed the fear because of two reasons. But the mother was not solely responsible in inculcating the fear. Rather, you can always say that she was not responsible. She was just warning him not to go to the Yakima River. Rather, she was the one who wanted him to learn swimming, and she was the one who forced him to go to the pool to learn swimming. So the mother was in no way responsible in inculcating the fear in Douglas. I hope this answer is very, very clear, right? Coming to the next one, what factors made Douglas to decide in favor of the YMCA pool? Now, this is a very simple one, as I have just now done with you. Douglas' mother recommended that he should learn swimming at the YMCA swimming pool because it was safe, only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, with a gradual drop to 9 feet at the other end. In contrast, the Yakima River was quite deep and several cases of drowning in it have been reported. Now, children, this answer is a complete package because the question is asking you what factors. There were 2 factors. One is about the mother incident. The second one is about how the pool was safe than the Yakima and how the Yakima was not safe. So this answer is a complete package. If you write 2 points, then you are missing out on the third point. So that is why I'm saying all these 3 value points are to be included to this particular answer. Okay, next. Was Douglas in awe of the big bruiser? He says in the story that the boy had rippling muscles and he was a beautiful physical specimen. So definitely somewhere or the other we can read between the lines that Douglas was in awe of the big bruiser. So let's find out the answer then to it. Yes, he was in awe of the bruiser's muscular body and rippling muscles. And the most important part, which is going to supplement to your answer here, is that he was ashamed of his skinny legs. That means Douglas was not very confident about his own physical body. Rather, he would go and sit there by the side of the pool, and he was afraid to go naked into the water. So, but somehow he would subdue his pride and then go into it. But he was definitely ashamed of his skinny legs. And he was in awe of the bruiser's muscular body and his rippling muscles. Right? Next. What was the misadventure? Now, this is one question where I find year after year, children get confused between the 2 incidents, childhood incidents in Douglas' life. Remember, we have been told only 2 incidents of Douglas' early life. Now, what are those? Let's see. So, which one is a misadventure? We're going to find out. A big boy looking like a big bully came in a short while when he was sitting over there by the side of the pool. He looked 18 with his well-built muscular frame, and he was itching to have a little fun, So quite brusquely, without any thought, just for fun, he shoved Douglas into the pool. And poor Douglas was unprepared for this jolt. He hadn't learned swimming completely also. He was just a new learner. He landed in a sitting position, he gulped water, and he sank to the bottom because he was completely unprepared. When he was just thrown into the deep end, he was completely unprepared. He was nervous, but when I say, see, it speaks volumes about him now. He didn't run out of his wits. Constantly, he chalked out his plan of action to come out of the danger. And he decided to push against the floor, right? His body was aching. He fell down flat on the surface, and then he tried to paddle his way to safety. So this was the misadventure. Now, if you just write that he was thrown into the water by a big bruiser and it was a misadventure, no. The answer is not complete. Misadventure is also after that what happened. After that, what was the condition of the boy? How did the boy try to, how did the boy found himself in a mess? That is mess part we have to mention here. Only then it becomes a misadventure. If you remember in my last class, I told you what is the difference between an adventure and a misadventure. Adventure is something which is exciting and gives you thrill and happiness, right? Gives you joy. Whereas a misadventure gives you problems, makes you get into trouble. So here, after he was thrown into the water, he faced a lot of problems. That's a different question that he tried to overcome it later on, and either he was rescued, but he did face a near death experience. Hence, we call it as a misadventure, right? Now, because in the story, this misadventure is written later on, is written in the beginning, sorry, and then the author describes about his how he developed the fear of water with his father experience. So children get confused here that which is a misadventure. Now be very clear, misadventure is the incident when he was thrown into the water and what happened to him when he was deep down into the water, right? So this is a complete answer now. See, what happens, children, is that most of you are able to write the answers, but there are some children who give a complete answer, right? And there's some who leave it halfway. So it's all about a matter of the value points which you add to your answer. Some answers may have just 2 value points, as in my previous question. This question, there were only 2 value points. Yes, and about the rippling muscles and about the skinny legs. Now, some may write only this particular part and they may not mention this. That is the reason that some lose out somewhere and some are able to get full. So this is the only reason. You should read the question carefully and be able to give a complete answer, right? Coming to the next one now. What was the short-term impact on Douglas? Now, children, see, I told you earlier also that any incident which happens in our life has a short-term impact and also a long-term impact. You all have read the poem, The Road Not Taken, and If also, the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. In all these poems, we are talking about if what he would have taken a different path in the road not taken. What would have happened? So at that moment, some incident took place, and later on, long-term impact also is there. So every incident does have a short-term and a long-term impact. Good or bad is a different story. But so let us see now, find out here, what was the short-term impact on Douglas? See, after a few hours, when he was pulled out from the swimming pool, he was rescued, he started, he vomited. And then what happened, Douglas was back on his feet. He trudged back home. His body was feeling very weak and he was frightened to the core. He was completely shaken. And the incident robbed Douglas of his composure, of his confidence. And for days he was disturbed. He was sick to the stomach. He couldn't eat anything. So all these were the short-term impact. But it also had a long-term impact. What was that? See, the scary memories clung to him for years. A few days later, the waters of the Cascades beckoned him. When people used to go for swimming, fishing, boating, canoeing, and all that, even he wanted to go there because the memory of his previous experience haunted him. But he had forgotten it. It became a little hazy by now, but not completely. It again haunted him again and again. So what happened was that he waded through the Titan and the bumping river. He bathed in the warm lake of the great rocks. But each time, the horror of the YMCA pool came back to his mind and gripping him like a vice. He was tightly in the claws of his fear and of his horror, and that haunting experience was again and again he was reminded of. A chill went down his spine as he recounted the horror of the drowning incident. I told you it had faded somehow, but when he would go into the waters, he tried going back into the water again after a few years, but that would haunt him. And he was never very comfortable. So that is the reason that he started working on himself. So this was the long-term impact. He could not enjoy his boating, canoeing, and other experiences like other people. Though he did go for all these things, started going to the warm lake also and take bath there, but it would keep haunting him, right? Next, what happened after he was thrown into the pool by the bully? Let's see. And these are a number of points here. First of all, the floor lay nearly 9 feet because he was thrown at the deep end. He lay there nearly 9 feet below and he had to reach it with his feet before he could kick himself up. Because even if he had decided, he had strategized that as soon as I would reach the end of the pool, I would give a kick to myself and I come. But he had to wait, and that waiting seemed to be very, very long. Because when we are in a difficult time, it becomes that time doesn't seem to pass. So it becomes much more slower. We feel like that. So it took him long to reach down. Slowly as he was going down, he was strategizing, he was afraid, everything, The sinking appeared frustratingly low. Remaining breathless so long had made his lungs swell painfully. And finally, when his feet touched the ground, it was time to push against the floor with his feet. Douglas hit the floor hard with his legs, but sadly for him, his hope of floating up instantly didn't materialize because one cannot come out of the water so easily just by pushing. There's a 9 feet water there and he has to fight with the water, go against the current to come up. And for that, he needs good amount of oxygen, which he has not been able to intake. So instead, he made his way up rather slowly, but it was an excruciating experience. Excruciating, a very, very painful experience. He had to fight against the water, right? He looked around, but still he was submerged in the water and he saw nothing but water and water all around him. He wanted to cry. He made a loud sound, but everything was all futile. He seemed doomed that I'm lost. I can never come out. Happily for Douglas, he finally succeeded to bring his eyes and nose above the water. So, there was some hope that if I make more efforts, maybe I'll be able to come out completely. But his mouth remained under the water. Douglas made frantic attempts to emerge to safety, but the water seemed to overpower him and his limbs began to, give in. They didn't have that much of, he didn't have that much of strength, and his limbs started sapping and he swallowed more water. He was now again going down. His legs felt very, very weak and very heavy because he was fighting against the water. Right? Next. I hope this is clear to all of you. I hope you all have jotted down all these points here, children, because this is a complete answer to this particular question. Now, this is only one part. You will find a very similar question. It's not the same, but a very likely question to come, and also but different. Also but different. Keep this in mind. So don't think that both the questions will be same. I'll show you the difference and move back to the slide and show you how the two questions are different. How did Douglas fight for survival in the water? See, this was the first step. What happened? In the previous slide, it is what happened after he was thrown into the pool. And this question says, how did Douglas fight for survival in the water? When he was in the water, what all steps he took to fight for survival? Yes. He kicked and punched the water around in desperation. With each passing moment, he became weaker and weaker as the lungs and the brain began to falter because he was not able to get good amount of oxygen. And that is the reason that he was becoming weaker and weaker. But Douglas never gave up. He summoned all his grit to think out the rescue plan. This was the best part, children, that he did not give in. He was constantly working. His brain, though, was becoming slower, but he remembered that he has to give a push to himself and come up. Though he didn't understand that he's not like a cork, he can come up. But he was constantly planning. He had to hit the floor, kick against it, come up to the surface, and swim back to the shallow end of the pool. The plan remained in active mode in his mind, and as he got drawn deeper and deeper into the water. And in this way, he tried 3 times. Douglas began to panic only after the 3rd time, children. But for the first 2 times, he did make an effort to fight against the water. And then an unknown fright gripped him. His limbs were immobilized and his brain lost its discerning power, understanding power, And the poor Douglas wanted to cry out to his mother, but his yells got muffled under the water. We write up to this part here because here after this he becomes unconscious and then he is rescued. So this was his entire fight for survival of water. All these points refer to the fight. Okay. Now coming to the next one. What happened after he lost consciousness? After this, he lost consciousness. He thought about his mother, and then, he started losing consciousness. So what happened? Something very intriguing happened, strange happened. Douglas felt a new calm. When your body was not able to respond, it had become too tired. It was not responding. The brain wasn't responding. The limbs weren't responding. Everything felt so relaxed. He had over-exhausted himself, and his brain sensed some conversation going on around him. You could sense people were chatting animatedly there, and someone was carrying him in his arms. He didn't feel any more panic. See, because now, he has lost all that, urge, you can say, or you can say that he had lost all the energy to fight. He seemed to be regaining his senses, but he lapsed into a queer sort of a sleep. And when he woke up, he found himself lying on his stomach by the poolside. He had thrown up, that is, he had vomited, and the extra water he had gulped had come out. He overheard someone saying that he was just joking. Apparently, it was the same guy who had pushed him to water, and there was relief all around. It seemed as if he had a close brush with death, and he has cheated it. He has cheated death, and he has come out alive, right? This much he did know, and he was carried into the locker room. See, this was after he lost consciousness, but somewhere he could sense some conversations going on. Though his body was not responding, but his mind was still awake. And that is the reason he could sense things happening around him, though his body wasn't responding. There were 2 reasons for this. One is that his body had become too weak. He had overexhausted his body, that his body could not act now, right? Those who know swimming, they know how it is exhaustive an exercise it is, right? And the second reason is he was really very brave, that even in this kind of a circumstance, he was trying to strategize, plan as to how to save himself. That is the reason that even in his subconscious state, he was alive. Right. Okay. I hope you have noted down here. Next question. How did Douglas overcome his fear finally? See, I've used the word finally here, right? This is an important part here. The last word is very, very important. How did Douglas overcome his fear is a different question, but how did he overcome his fear finally is entirely a different question. See, despite success, the old horror memories would creep into his mind each time he delved into the water. So, however, Douglas simply cast them off with disdain, and he was on the top. He swam back and forth in the pool repeatedly as if to prove his point. Such defiant swimming continued with him till July. Here we are going to discuss about after what the instructor had done with him. Remember, finally is after the instructor has left him, how did he overcome his fear? This is my point here. Once again, I'll repeat here. In this answer, we are going to discuss about the situation after the instructor had left him in the month of April. So what did he do to overcome his fear? Now that he has learned swimming, now that the fear is done away with, then how did he, there were still vestiges and miniatures of fear, then how did he overcome it? So this is the question of finally. So till July, he continued learning swimming, but Douglas was still not satisfied. So where did he go? He went to Wentworth in New Hampshire. He dived off a dock at Triggs Island. He swam in different styles, back from, crawl and all kinds of styles. He tried freely and confidently. He stared the old terror in its eyes by putting his eyes under water and looking at the bottom. And he even asked the terror. He says, Mr. Terror, if you want, you can quote the lines here also. Mr. Terror, what are you doing? Are you trying to frighten me? So he stared at the old terror in its eyes, and it was a daring fate for a man who had once nearly drowned in a pool to do this. Like this, Douglas tested his swimming prowess in various locations. You need not write the name of each and every locations. One or two are also enough. So each time he emerged triumphant, and thus he was able to overcome his fear. Okay, next. What lessons did he learn from this incident? Let's see that. We've already discussed this, but I'll give you in the form of an answer. See, the relentless pursuit to learn swimming and to banish fear not only bore fruit, but also taught him some valuable lessons in life. He realized how true was President Roosevelt when he said, all we have to fear is fear itself. Douglas had survived a near-death situation once and later learned to dispel the long shadow the horror had cast on his psyche. Because of these lines, all we have to fear is fear itself. His constant, relentless pursuit in fighting it, all that had helped him, to fight with his psyche or to fight with his fear. The conquest of winning over this emboldened him to defy fear and ventured on to a nerve-wracking fates. He emerged a much stronger man from the childhood ordeal, simply because he chose to confront death or dread through a frontal assault. Now, children, these are the lessons which he learned. So you can count his, how he constantly chased his fear, and he was stronger, he was more confident, he did not give in to his fear, and he emerged much stronger. Sometimes, the ordeals in our life, they may seem a little, they may sadden us at time, and they make life a little very, very monotonous. But remember, if you are able to fight that out, if you emerge a winner from that, then you will become a winner throughout your life. So, the Douglas career, he was the youngest Supreme Court justice in the nation at the age of 40, and he was nominated by Roosevelt. So all these incidents, not only this particular swimming experience, this shows the strength, the stamina, the tenacity of the man who knew how to fight his fears, and that made him such a strong personality. So what an inspire, these small incidents in a person's life can influence so many people and can be so very motivational for all of us. Okay, so I'll move to the next one now. Douglas fully realized the truth of Roosevelt's statement, all we have to fear is fear itself. How did this realization help him brush aside his fear and become an expert swimmer? See, Roosevelt had told him, we'll analyze this line now, all we have to fear is fear itself. Douglas had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that fear of it can produce. See, these are two things. All we have to fear is fear itself. See, fear is one thing, but when we engulf ourselves and get gripped in the fear, that is completely wrong. So Douglas did not allow himself to get engulfed in the fear. His strong will, his determination, his courage, his toil, hard work, you know, his diligence, his honest labor helped him to win all his terrors and fears. The will to live brushes aside all our fears. When a person has gone through a very near to death experience, he understands death, what death is and what life is. And the urge to live becomes all the more stronger. A person who knows, I mean, we talk about Amrit here. I'll just give you a small example here, children. A person, for us, we find water everywhere around us. We don't value water. But a person who lives in a desert, ask him the value of the water. Right? Ask him what water is. They know how to save water and they'll never even waste even a drop of it. And for us, because every day it comes in the tap, we don't value it. So a person who has seen death, who has had a narrow escape from death, he understands the importance of life. So this boy had gone through a near death experience. That is the reason that for him life was so very important. So the will to live, he wanted to fight all those fears to be able to live a life free of fears. So this realization of his made him to resolve to learn swimming by engaging an instructor. This instructor built Douglas into a swimmer piece by piece, bit by bit, not in one whole way to all together, in one incident. Sorry, in just by one act. It was done in small acts, in small little ways. He made him to teach, and then he put all those small acts together, and he made him a swimmer. But that was not all. That was not all. A coach can take you and help you, but you have to do it yourself. So what did he do himself? He went to Lake Wentworth, he dived at Triggs Island, and he swam 2 miles across the lakes to Stampat Island, and finally he had conquered his fear of water. And now there was no fear left in him. Okay. I hope it is very clear, children, now. Yes. What did Douglas do to overcome his fear? Now, this question will have all the points which I've discussed in 2 parts there, but this will have all the points. What are those? Douglas was determined to banish the lingering aquaphobia from his mind, and in October he engaged a swimming coach. The coach assembled a rope and a pulley assembly that was hooked to preempt any chance of Douglas drowning, and William continued his practice lesson despite occasional odds. Day after day, Douglas persisted with the swimming practices under the watchful eye of his trainer. He made incremental progress after each session, and he gained confidence as his fear of water receded gradually. But the progress was not easy. It was punctuated by instances of panic and failures. But after 3 months and hundreds of swims, Douglas finally felt a sense of accomplishment. He was no longer fettered by the fear of water. He learned how to exhale when his head was underwater and inhale when it was above water. And then came the feet strengthening exercises. The coach made him sit on the edge of the pool, and how he asked him to kick his legs, into the water, and that helped him to strengthen his legs. And after a few days, he developed a fine command over his legs. And by April, the coach's perseverance and Douglas' zeal, see, it's both of them efforts, paid off, and he had become a skilled swimmer, right? And now he could swim in the pool with no assistance. Okay, fine. Well, how was Douglas able to overcome the fear? Now here you are going to write about, again, bit by bit, how the fear was shed. And this, I'm sure you'll be able to write it now. I'll move to this has got, again, this will have a number of points here. I'll just repeat. You can take a screenshot if you want, children. How was Douglas able to overcome fear? These points are continuing on the next slide as well. So quickly take a screenshot and these. So it is till the end you have to describe here. Write his journey from the swimmer, from the instructor till he emerged as triumphant at the Lake Wentworth. So all this you have to mention here. Or this could, you could call it as similarly to the answer as I said, finally one. That is the one. I'm sure you all have done this. I'll move to the next one. Now, these are some value-based question here. The story Deep Water has made you realize that with determination and perseverance, one can accomplish the impossible. Write a paragraph, or it could be a question also. And it could be just a question. Write your answer in about 120 to 50 words on how a positive attitude and courage will aid you to achieve success in life. So what all you'll incorporate and how will you begin with the answer? What we have noted, children, is that you know the answer, but you don't know how to present the answer, how to begin the answer, and how to end it, how to conclude it. So that is the reason I'm giving you here all the value points. The story Deep Water is a story of sheer determination and perseverance. It teaches us how, in spite of all odds, our positive attitude and our courage to fight can help us achieve success in life. The narrator's phobia of water or water bodies had gripped him for quite a long period of his life. However, once he decides to overcome his fear, he is able to shed it off completely. He adopts a very positive attitude and determines that he will fight his fear no matter what comes his way. His training is a long and a slow process, nearly about 6 months, but he learns everything patiently and never gives up. Remember when he says 3 months it took him just to move back and forth. So it required a lot of patience, you know. So Douglas' perseverance and courage teach us that a firm will and determination coupled with a bold attitude can help us win over all our obstacles and achieve the impossible. I hope you have jotted down all these points here. Note them down, children. Next, justify the title of the story. Yes, the title is very, very important here. The title tells us about the story is appropriately titled Deep Water because it unfolds with the narrator deciding to learn swimming at the YMCA swimming pool, and he admitted that he had an aversion to water. This began when he was 3 or 4 years old and his father took him to a California beach. Here he was knocked down. See, I'm just picking up the important points from the each part of the story. Yet another incident aggravate. You don't have to explain all the incidents here. You have to just touch on all the important subheadings. So if you have done your note making, it will help you to write the story now. And you can also check that you must be having these as your subheadings. Yet another incident aggravated his phobia of water bodies, and he was tossed by a robust bully into the deeper end of the swimming pool. He nearly drowned and was terribly frightened. An icy horror took possession of him and his legs became paralyzed. He began to avoid going near water bodies, and finally he decided that it was time to overcome his fear. So with the help of an instructor who systematically trained him in the art of swimming, and the deep aversion and terror he had on water was finally removed. Hence, the title of the story, Deep Water, is very much appropriate because the story revolves completely around the water. Explain the statement, the instructor was finished. Yes. Now, we have elaboratively discussed about Douglas and his journey, but the role of the instructor was also really huge, and the instructor himself was a very dedicated man who tried to patiently, with great perseverance, he was teaching Douglas. So let's see why do we say the instructor was finished? Don't think finished means dead. Here finished means the role of the instructor in Douglas' life was over. The narrator had engaged an instructor who would teach him to swim. See, we don't have to describe as to why he had engaged and all that in detailing. You have to just write that he had engaged a instructor. He helped Douglas to get rid of the icy horror of water bodies by attaching a rope to a belt worn by him. Holding the end of the rope in his hand, he made Douglas go back and forth in the pool. And next, with the help of breathing techniques and exercises like kicking with his legs, the instructor managed to build a swimmer of him bit by bit and step by step or piece by piece. The instructor also helped him in building up stamina and thus improving his confidence. Remember when I was talking to you about adventure games, children, stamina, physical health is very, very important. And that is the reason he used to make him sit by the side of the pool and ask him to kick his legs so that he could build up on the strength of his legs. The instructor was hired in the month of October, and by April, he put all he had into an integrated whole and taught him to learn swimming. So in a period of 6 months, the instructor built a swimmer out of Douglas. It was time for the instructor to go away then because he had finished his training. So what next now? That is why we say the instructor was finished. But what was left, we're not going to describe here. This is over. The answer is here. Just for your reference, I'm just elaborating on this point here. We say the instructor was finished because, you know, you can take the horse to drink water. You cannot make the horse to drink it. So in a similar way, a teacher can teach you, can guide you, but finally you have to make the efforts. So the instructor was over here with Douglas, but now it was left for Douglas to put his skills which he had learned into practice, right? So the instructor was finished here, but not Douglas, right? Okay, so we are through with all the questions here, children, from this lesson. And I'm sure you have been able to understand through and through and every part of the lesson. I want all of you to sincerely write down the answers in the notebook, children. Only a few students are asking me some queries and mailing it to me. I'm not getting the mails from many of you. I'd asked you to please mail me a copy of, take a photograph, click it and mail it to me. And you all have not done that. I would like to see your notebooks. Next class, I'm going to name the children who have come and who haven't come up with this. So please beware. I'm going to talk to the parents also regarding this, right? See, we are putting in a lot of efforts, children, and please do not let it go waste. We want you all to finish your work side by side, right? Good. But I'm not over with you. Please don't go away. I have something else for all of you. We are over with the lesson, deep water. But I want to take up writing skills also side by side. So I have decided that this class I'm going to take up advertisements. I had taken up this with you all earlier also. So a quick revision and a little more ahead we will go into advertisements. You all know that advertisements is a public announcement about some product or some services, and they can be of different types. You have a matrimonial, which you don't require now, just to know how to write. That will be the last one which you will do. So curtail your curiosity about that. Situation vacant, situation wanted, too late, sale, sale of vehicles, sale of plots, property. So they are of different types. One by one, we will take them. Okay. So what is the criteria of all this? It's written in short, catchy phrases and words. No and no to sentences. Advertisements are never written in sentences. It should be inside a box, and they're always written within 50 words. Less space with more economical words. Language has to be very simple and concise, using short phrases and words, putting commas, we complete the information. Okay, so this is all about advertisements, how to go about it. So today when we take up situation vacant, though I've already taken it up once, I just want to give a quick revision. Either we write wanted at the top, we begin our content with either wanted or required. Wanted is you are looking for it, or you require. Both the things are correct. Yes, some children have a query as to what is the difference between vacant and wanted. Vacant is when some organization is having a position which is vacant, right? Then we write, then the organization is giving an advertisement. When as an individual, somebody is looking for a job, then we say situation wanted, right? So the criteria for both, I mean, the content for both is one and the same, right? Only the manner of writing will change. So I will discuss that with you. Right now we are discussing situation vacant. Wanted or required, name of the organization, the post which is where there's a vacancy for, number of vacancies. This is an option, children. You may write, you may not write. What are the essential qualifications required? Experience, age of the person who is going to apply, male or female, the pay scale and the perks of the salary, mode of applying. Interview procedure is again an option. It may be written, it may not be written. Contact address is not an option, otherwise you will never know where to apply. Contact address and phone number of the advertiser. So these are the things which should be there in your situation vacant or wanted advertisement. I'll give you an example here. See, Delhi International School, Delhi requires IT personal assistant to the principal, draft and advertisements. See, there will be no hints in the question. You have to come out with your own ideas here, how to put it. So we begin with situation wanted or situation vacant. Both are correct here. Wanted for Delhi International School, an experienced assistant, male or female, age 25 to 30 years, graduate, possessing good correspondence skills, excellent command over written and spoken English, typing speed of 80 words per minute and shorthand of 100, salary negotiable, apply with a complete biodata within 7 days to the principal, Delhi International School, Delhi, and contact number. You can also write the email ID here, children. Both are correct here. Now, regarding the salary negotiable, we write it here. You need not write the figures here, not required, because the what we need here is your content here, the way it has been presented here. None of, I mean, this doesn't have any sentences. They're all written in short phrases or just important words, right? So this is a advertisement. Okay, don't you write sentences. Yes, we have written 2 sentences. If you see in this entire, there are only 2 sentences, beginning from wanted, ending with negotiable, with all the value points there, and then beginning with apply and ending with the Delhi here. So that is talking about where to apply and what to, until when to apply. So contact number and email ID also can be mentioned here. Now, this is what we want when you write an advertisement. Okay, next. This is about a mechanical engineer who is looking for a job in Delhi or Delhi NCR. So he writes an advertisement. So he says situation wanted. He cannot write a situation vacant here, right? Because there's no vacancy here. He is advertising here. In this question, both are correct here because they're also wanting people. So in this case, wanted and vacant both are correct. But in this case, when an individual is asking for a job, it has to be situation wanted. So who is this person here who is applying? He's a BTech in mechanical engineering from DTU. He's a male, 25 years, gold medalist with an experience of 3 years in automobile company, and seeks for a job in a multinational company in Delhi NCR. Excellent communication skills in Hindi, English, and Punjabi, knowledge of Java and C++. Expected salary is mentioned it here. Contact, the name of the person here, his address, and the email ID is also mentioned here. So this is a complete package of an advertisement, right? And then I'll move to the next one now. The next one which I'm going to take up is to let or a sale of property. Now, whether it is a to let, you are letting out a property, or to let means you are giving somebody to live there, or you're selling off the property. So what are the things required? Details of the kind of the house. It could be, children, many times you all make mistake. You don't understand the difference between a flat, a plot, and an independent house. They're all three different things. So the description will be different likewise, right? A flat cannot be a plot. Plot is an independent house. Independent house can be a bungalow also. So it can have a garden area. So as the question demands, you must write accordingly. So details of the house, whether it is a flat or it is a plot or it is an independent house or it is a floor, whatever the case may be. Then we talk about the details of the location, right? Please put down the points in this order, the value points in this order only, children. Details of the location, that is near the airport or the shopping center, near metro. I mean, you have n number of points to write here. Kind of the area in the colony, it's a posh area, posh colony. Any other details you want to mention, you can do that. Yes, it's safe and secure, busy, anything you can use here. Details of the number of the rooms, the kitchen, the garage, the lawn, etc., parking lot. You have, any other details you want to mention about the house here. Use adjectives like airy, well furnished, newly built, fitted with modern gadgets, right? And do not become over enthusiastic and write so many points. Remember the word limit as well. So, and lastly and important is your contact address and telephone number. And you can also give your email ID. So here is one example, children. Here I'll read out for all of you. The ground floor of a newly constructed house in Mohammadi Lines, Hyderabad, is available for sale. The living space includes 3 bedrooms with attached baths, a drawing-cum-dining, and a spacious kitchen. It is centrally located close to the main market and airport. Expected cost 7 lakhs, negotiable. Interested, please contact, and the name of the person. Now, this has 3 sentences, right? But a number of value points have been included in one particular sentence. This is what you have to do, right? You don't have to, even from these 3 sentences, if you feel, you can always cut down to 2 also. That is your way of writing it. Fine. That's all for today. These advertisements also have to be written down in your notebooks, children, side by side, one notebook with both the writing skills, which we have done till now. I have done with you your advertisements and letter writing also. So please, up till now, whatever we have done in the writing skills also should be done in your notebooks. That's all for today. I'm sure you have taken in all this and you'll pen them down in your notebooks. Thank you for being with me. Thank you so much, children. Till we see you next day, stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you so much.